conversations with some actors this week and a friend of mine, and they said something that struck me as, wow, this thing that we carry with us through life, and it's, I think, part of what we have to figure out, which is, I don't deserve it. Dum, dum, dum. Yeah. And it's very, some of you may be like, yeah, I've worked through that. I know I deserve this stuff, but not really. Like, I think what's interesting and what I want to talk about, like the science part behind it, is that a lot of these things are so embedded in our core, we don't even realize it. And so I just want to sort of introduce a new way of thinking about it so that then next week we can come up with a way of maybe creating a change. And you know, for me, since I'm so interested in science, we've got to introduce the change at the quantum level, because changing a belief system doesn't work just like I'm fat to no, I'm not fat. It doesn't work that way. That's just, it's not going to work. Just changing it at the word level, okay? And you know, yeah, I think that that's really fascinating. When I was talking to this person, she's like, you know what, I guess I just don't really believe that I deserve better. It kills me. But then I realized, like, that is the same for me in certain areas of my life as it is for all people. All people, whether they're acknowledging it or not. And, you know, I say in the book, and I talk about a lot, and this is really powerful. You don't get what you wish for in life, you get what you believe. You don't get what you wish for in life, you get what you believe. And that can create panic in the human being, because you have these really big desires. You have desires to have an amazing relationship and be on your own series or work with Steven Spielberg, whatever these desires are, but then your belief system runs contrary to it. And then you think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to change that belief system because I don't really believe that I deserve it or it can happen. I'm telling you, what we're going to do next week is, if you just take baby steps, and part of that is faking it till you make it. And the science behind that now is eventually you'll catch up and change the belief system. So those things that seem out of your reach right now, you'll be doing it. You'll look back and you'll be like, oh, I'm doing it. I talk about that all the time, right? But I think it just, this idea that you don't get what you wish for, you get what you believe, is, think about it. In your life, you have desires. And what happens? When you have a desire for something and you have a very strong contrary belief to that desire, what wins out? The belief system. The belief system wins out. And that's why life is so freaking frustrating. Because at one level we're not conscious of it. And we get upset with ourselves because we're like, I'm doing all the work and I feel like I'm so amazing and I'm doing fantastic and I've gotten so many more ducks in a row, and yet I have this desire and it's not happening. Well, we got to change the belief system. For sure. Partly is, if you think about your own life and the beliefs that you have, think about where they live, in the core of your being. And so you've been carrying them around with you for a long-ass time. So they're like calcified dinosaur bones. They are. You don't really think about it in those terms. So let's think of it this way. Everything has a quantum... what is my word? What we experience in the material world has a quantum equivalent. So if you think about your belief system in terms of quantum, everything, as you've heard me talk about, exists in superposition, which means everything is possibility. Science has proven it. Everything is potential. Everything is just a quantum wave that then once we observe it, it becomes matter, or a wave becomes a particle. So everything is has potential to be both a wave and a particle until you observe it, and then that thing becomes observed, it becomes physical mass. And this is the amazing thing to me about belief systems. Oh my goodness. The belief system that we have in place is a crystallizing factor in your life. I don't think maybe you're thinking about it in those terms. It is a crystallizing factor in your life, meaning it is bearing out in your experiences the belief system that is running. Because that's its job. Its job is to continue to perpetuate the belief system that you have an expectation of. This is mind-blowing to me, because that's the truth. Think about it. If you've been telling yourself something for so long, the experiences that you're going to be having out in the world are confirming those things that you've been telling yourself for so long. That's the belief system's job. You don't have to beat your belief system up for having it. That's just doing what it's supposed to do. I wrote down, its job is to serve you the way you want, subconsciously to be served. That's the whole thing. We allow these belief systems to run on their own accord without realizing, oh my God, it's just doing its job. Just like my organs do its job, just like the blood is doing its job in my kidneys and my pancreas, and all these things are doing its job subconsciously. So if we can get to the root of a belief system, then you can create causality, you can create change. I wrote down that it's the expectation of how we see our world that keeps the belief system confirming the expectation of how you see your world. And if you look at the history of mankind, it's been borne out over and over again. Think about it. The prevailing belief system in the world forever, for centuries, was that the world was flat. Oh my goodness, the prevailing belief system of the world until Copernicus came along was that it was an Earth-centered universe. Thank God somebody came along and shattered the belief system. So we have individual and collective consciousness belief systems. And you know what? The thing is the only way that things change collectively is beginning with the individual self. So, here's what we're going to do before next week. I want you to write down, next week, 5 things that you want in life. 5 things that you deserve/want in life. Okay? And then I want you to write down why you want them. I don't want you to write something silly. You have to give it some thought. I don't want you to write down something silly like, well, I want more money. For sure, but think more along the terms of, you know, the desiring of these things is connecting you to the parts of yourself that make you feel alive and excited and hopeful. And dynamic.
For us, Tony?
For you.
For us, not for other people.
For you.
Okay.
Just 5 things you want in your life. And auditors, you should do this. It might change your life. And then the third thing is, I'm not going to tell you until next week about the belief system that's running contrary to it and how we can change it.
What was the second one, Tony?
Is why do you want those things? But you got to dig deep. Don't be at the superficial level. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the specifics?
Just, I don't know, when you start to write them, engage in more of a writing exercise of, well, why do you want to be an actor on a TV show? If that's something that you desire. That's fine, that's a great desire. But why? Get more to the heart of it. It's not to be famous. It's not to have lots of money. For sure, those are superficial things that, of course, at one level, the egoic part wants to fulfill. But that's not the real reason why anybody creates. It's just not. It's not part of our DNA as human beings. There's a deeper drive, which is interesting. I'll just end with this, which is the whole thing that when I was thinking about this lesson, it's the thing that I think people are filled with by being at the studio, which is you feel when you leave class, even when you are having a hard time and you're being challenged by it, by other people's work or the things that we talk about, you feel plugged into that deeper truth of who you are, which is, it's possible for me. That's the thing. You are more in alignment with the desire than the belief system. You believe that something is possible, you're excited about it, you feel reinvigorated and reconnected, and you're like, I want to go out into the world and do it. Ah! And then what happens? A day passes, 2 days passes, 3 days passes, and the belief system kicks into place and then makes you forget the part that has awakened you. That's our own internal dissonance. We're cut off from the whole part of who we are, and we relate to the fragmented part. So, let's just work with those 2 questions. And then next week, I'm going to ask you something that's going to